There it goes. Okay. We are now recording and transcribing.
Excellent. We'll kick off the meeting now. For those I haven't yet met, my name is Caleb Reimer. I manage Cascade's energy efficiency programs in Washington, particularly residential, commercial, industrial. Today, we are going to be having our Q1 Conservation Advisory Group meeting. I'm expecting this agenda to be relatively light, perhaps under an hour. So great opportunity for anyone on the call. If you've got questions, comments, topics to bring up on an ad hoc basis, put them in the chat or raise your hand. We can talk through them perhaps near the end of the meeting. With that, we'll get started. I've got a safety moment here, and I found a nice little infographic online. I think a lot of this information is known to us on the call, but it's a great reminder every once in a while the importance of cybersecurity and some tips that likely most of us are already currently using. I see some things on here that Cascade, for example, implemented, like using two-factor authentication, getting tests for phishing, creating strong passwords, making sure you're using safe, secure Wi-Fi and VPN access. There's some other pieces here like attending training, which I think our company, for example, does really well with. And also just the obvious pieces like locking your devices when you step away, protecting your personal information, all those great things. And I also think about, tax season, for example, coming up, we're oftentimes entering sensitive information, make sure you're using the right URL, make sure things are secured, that sort of thing. So great reminder for us this morning. If I could ask Des, would you be able to lead us a roll call?
Absolutely. First, I'm going to let everyone know there weren't any action items from quarter four of 2025. So with that, I will move right into roll call, and I will start with myself. Desiree Bickmore. I am the Energy Efficiency Program Specialist for Cascade Natural Gas. And then we'll go with Jody Albert.
Hello, everyone. Jody Albert here. I'm an energy efficiency analyst for Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Jody. Jacinda, and welcome back, Jacinda.
Thank you, Des. I am Jacinda Ashby. I'm an Energy Efficiency West Program Delivery Specialist for both IGC and CNGC.
Thank you, Jacinda. Brian Farnsworth.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Brian Farnsworth. I'm a program manager with TRC Companies on behalf of Cascade Natural Gas Commercial and Industrial Program.
Thank you, Brian. Wesley Franks.
Hello, it's turning my camera on. I'm Wesley Franks with the Washington UTC. This is my first Cascade advisory group. Talked with Caleb, but maybe I'll just update you all. I'll be transitioning to be commission staff lead on Cascade conservation filings for this new year. And just a little bit of more info. Prior to this, I was working on PSC conservation. So I'm familiar with quite a few topics, but I'm excited to learn about what Cascade has going on.
Well, welcome, Wesley. Nice to have you here. Gordon, I hope I say this right, Gimsey?
Yeah, very good. He didn't put an R. A lot of times people say Grimes. It's like, no R. But you got it. Good job. I'd just like to echo everything that Wesley said. I'm new to the Cascade team. I've been working primarily with Pacific Corp on a lot of stuff. But looking forward to learn about the company and seeing the great DSM things you guys are doing. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Gordon, and welcome to the meeting. Byron Harmon.
Good morning. This is Byron Harmon. I'm the old UTC staff on the way out, so still happy to be here. Looking forward to the meeting.
Well, happy to have you, Byron. Well, I hope new adventures ahead for you. And Kai Hyatt.
Hi, I am Kai Hyatt. I am a regulatory analyst with Public Counsel.
Thank you, Kai. Paul Koenig.
Hey there, my name is Paul Koenig. I am staff with the Washington UTC as well as my colleagues. And similar to some of my colleagues, I am coming on board the Cascade team with staff as a general company contact. I'm looking forward to my first advisory group with Cascade.
Well, welcome, Paul. Thank you. And Jesse, I hope I do this right this time. Lego?
Yeah, that sounded pretty good. I tell people like the building blocks. If you can think Lego, you pretty much got it. So thank you. Jesse Lego with Cascade. I am an energy efficiency analyst. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Jesse. I'll remember that, Lego. And Joseph Lennon.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joseph Lennon. I'm an energy efficiency program specialist with Cascade Natural and Gas Corp.
Thank you, Joseph. Karen Magana.
Hi, my name is Karen Magana, and I am the Renewable Resources Analyst for Cascade.
Welcome, Karen. Nick Manning.
Hey, good morning, folks. Nick Manning. I am Energy Policy Specialist with the Department of Commerce, and not my first meeting, but one of them. So thanks for having it, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Nick. We're glad to have you. Sheila McElhaney.
Good morning. This is Sheila McElhaney. I'm Senior Efficiency Analyst at Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Sheila. Devin McGreal.
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. Good morning, everyone. Devin McGreal, Manager of Renewable Resources here at Cascade.
Thank you, Devin. Noemi Ortiz.
Hey, good morning. Noemi Ortiz, Energy Efficiency Programs Manager for the Oregon side.
Thank you, Noemi. Michael Parvinen.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Mike Parvinen with Cascade. I'm the Director of Regulatory Affairs and Conservation for Cascade and Intermountain Gas. Nice to have everybody here.
Great to be here. Stephanie Reed.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stephanie Reed, Energy Efficiency Analyst for Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Stephanie. Caleb Reimer.
Yeah, morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Caleb Reimer, and as mentioned before, I'll be leading the meeting this morning, talking about our Washington residential, commercial, industrial, as well as the low-income program this morning.
Thank you, Caleb. Brian Robertson.
Hey, good morning. Brian Robertson, Manager of Supply Resource Planning for Cascade.
Thank you, Brian. Mark Sellers-Bond.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Sellers-Bond, Upstream Resources and Special Projects Manager with Cascade and Intermountain.
Thank you, Mark. And I know I'm going to mess this one up. I can never say it right. Srishti?
Yeah, that's correct. Good morning, everyone. My name is Srishti Singh, and I'm Energy Efficiency Analyst for Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Srishti. And last but not least, Cody Thompson.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Cody Thompson, Supervisor Energy Efficiency Programs for Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Cody. And we will have Peter Crystallite. He will try to join us later. So I'll hope to see him here soon. So that is our roll call. Thank you, everyone. And I will hand it back over to Caleb.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going to go to the next slide here, and we're going to be first sharing a portfolio update of course, for the last year. Things to keep in mind is that these numbers are, you call them unreconciled draft numbers. We'll be producing draft and then final numbers, something about to this group right around May or so this year will be our biennial report. In terms of content this morning, like I mentioned, we've got a relatively short agenda. So we'll be first talking about our 2025 updates for both the commercial industrial as well as the residential program, and then talking about some plans or possible opportunities in 2026. So that's a slide where I'd love to get comments, info, any thoughts from this group. That's the whole point, in my opinion, of having this meeting here and spending the time with everyone together. We just love to get any insider suggestions you have to make our program better in the future. Afterwards, some great updates in our low-income program, and then I believe Jody will be closing out with some regulatory updates, some things that are upcoming, as well as some filings that have occurred recently. So relatively short agenda. Like I mentioned, if you've got any ad hoc topics, things to discuss, and the opportunities present themselves, put them in the chat. We can have something at the end here of the meeting before we close out. I think we'll get started here by introducing Brian with TRC, who implements our commercial industrial program. He's got some great updates for us. If you're ready, Brian, take it away.
Absolutely, I'm ready. Thank you for the introduction. So as Caleb said, these are updates that have not gone through rigorous year-end verification. These are estimates at this time. But like he also mentioned, we're going to be mostly discussing a 2025 wrap-up and the fourth quarter of 2025. And then later in my presentation, we will be discussing a little bit of 2026, just showing what our forecast and our pipeline looks like for 2026. And if you have any thoughts there, as he mentioned, we'd welcome your input. So for the year end for 2025, we achieved 341,000 therms. We issued about $1,275,000 in incentive payments to commercial and industrial customers. And just as a point of reference in terms of our goal, that 341,000 was about 77% to our annual goal. So we did fall a little bit short. We had some challenges. It's not where we wanted to end up, but we're excited to start a new year and hopefully get closer to that 100% number this year. So now that 341,000 therms, that was over 171 natural gas savings measures. A couple of our larger projects that we processed this year were for Local Bounty and Manzana products. Then you can see the therm savings there for each of those projects. Some of those span several projects, particularly for Manzana and I believe Local Bounty also. So next slide, please. Okay, this is just kind of a quarter four marketing update. Yeah, we can take a question if someone has a question.
Yeah, this is Wesley with UTC staff. My question's still on the other slide. I'm not used to the flow of Cascade presentations, so some of this might come up later. So I heard you mention that the 341,000 was about 77% for the 2025 goal. Can you provide more detail on how that, averages out for the biennium, the 24-25 biennium, if CNI is closer to that 100% mark for the 2 years?
Yeah, that will be addressed in a future slide. We did fall short in terms of the biennium also, but we do show a chart in an upcoming slide for you.
Okay, cool. And then the follow-up question is if you could provide a little bit more detail on what some of the drivers were for the shortcoming.
Yeah, and I had left out some of those slides. What we can do is provide a follow-up because I had removed those, but those had been in there for the last couple updates. Primarily, I would say the largest driver for the shortfall is we lost several projects, partly due to political reasons, partly due to the economy. But the largest project that we lost was actually for the Whidbey Island Naval Station, and this was a project that was anticipated to be our largest project that we've ever seen for the program. It was a 700,000 therm project over 2 years. It was a $3.5 million incentive. That project, it looks like, was indefinitely canceled. I would say that was the largest driver. But what I will do, because I already have all that information prepared, is I will send an update to Caleb and he will get that over to you because we have done an outline of all of the factors that impacted our performance for 2025.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Also, yeah, acknowledging that you've been probably updating on some of those things to date. So I'm getting up to speed on this stuff. And as it goes, questions beget more questions. You mentioned that one of the drivers was political reasons. Can you say more on what that is? Like, are people adverse to conservation in concept, or are you referring to like other factors there?
That was specifically due to the Whidbey Island Naval Station project.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and we were told that from their ESCO that was implementing that project that there was political justification for canceling that project.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
And Wes, we've got a handful more slides here. I'll give some space at the end of our commercial industrial update to see if anything else pops up or maybe if any other questions get answered there. Brian mentioned Whidbey Island's Naval Air Station. There is a bit of a pain in the air there. Like we mentioned, that was essentially our entire biennial goal. Tons of labor hours, man hours, working with them. And it's just, I believe with the transition last January, just fell through. So that's one of the things we work through and deal with and have our program not rely on those large single scale facilities to meet goal, but they're a huge impact for us, as we know. So we can talk more. And of course, we have that action item to share those details with you after the meeting.
Des, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say something real quick. For those that have just joined us for the first time, I'm going to put in the chat the link for our meeting minutes for all those past, and that's also one thing that might be helpful if you want to look back and see specifics on how these meetings go and specific information. So just as a FYI, I'm going to put that in our chat. So anyone who would like to look at those, you have it.
Yeah, thank you, Des. That's perfect.
All right, great. So continuing on, I'm just going to kind of hit the high level points here for our Q4 marketing efforts. We did run digital ads on the Yakima Herald website. Doing YouTube streaming ads was one of the new developments that we'd worked on in 2025. So that was something that we were working on in October. We did a welcome to heating season email campaign that went out to our customer base. Let's see. We worked at the WMOA conference. Looks like we ordered marketing materials, swag, raffle prize for our BD representative in Eastern Washington that attended that. We worked on a billboard ad that was that went up around the 1st of December in Bellingham. Let's see. We did a new case study for Josephine Caring Community. That was one of my projects. Let's see. We also did a print ad in the Tri-Cities Journal of Business. And then we did our second contractor breakfast. Our first contractor breakfast in 2025 was in the Bellingham area. And our second that we did was in Eastern Washington in Wenatchee. So that's just a little overview of some of our marketing activities in Q4 2025. Next slide, please. Here's just a couple of screenshots of a couple of those, just to get an idea of what our advertising, what our marketing looks like. You can see it's all very similar looking, on brand with Cascade Natural Gas. You can see that some of the things that we're targeting here is custom incentives and getting prepared for the upcoming heating season. So one of our goals this year was to really advertise our custom incentives, because our prescriptive, our standard incentives are much more front and center in terms of customer facing outreach. And we really wanted to highlight the fact that we do have custom incentives. You'll see later that we do get a large percentage of our savings from custom incentives, and we just want to continue to advertise those to our customer base. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is kind of a look at where we ended up last year, where we ended up this year. You can see the Q4 total there, and then you can also see the year-to-date totals. So Q4 of 2024, we'd achieved 72,000 therms. Q4 2025, we'd achieved 157,000 therms. And then you can see the year-to-date totals there. 377,000 is where we ended up in 2024, and 341,000 is where we ended up in 2025. And then you can see the percentage to goal there. You can see that the goal did go up from 368,000 to 443,000 between 2024 and 2025. And then you can see our percentage to goal there, 102% last year. And then, as I mentioned, the 77% to goal this year.
Hopefully this paints a little more of a picture for you, Wesley, in terms of our last 2 years' performance. Meeting goal for 2024 was fantastic for us, but with the way that our conservation potential achievements and our goals work with Northwest Power Conservation Council's ramp rates. Typically, year over year, they increase pretty dramatically. In this case, mental map was in the 20% ballpark. That's where the shortfall came for us in 2025. Still a successful year for us overall with very cost-effective therm savings. Here's our next slide.
Okay. So this slide is just a good way to visually track where we anticipated to end up for the year. You can also look at what 2024 looked like. And then the line at the bottom, the green line, shows what we had done for 2025. We did have a bit of a hockey stick effect where we saw the largest amount of our therm savings towards the end of the year. That's something that we're really trying to combat for 2026, which I'll mention. So we're really looking in to bring in a great amount of therm savings in the first 3 months of the year, so that we're not reliant on the end of the year to really push and meet our goal. So that's one of our internal goals for 2026. And then you mentioned the biennial. This is our chart right here. You can see that Across the 2 years, our goal was 812,460 therms, and we achieved 716,324 therms. So that was a shortfall of about 100,000 therms, 96,000 therms over the 2-year span. Okay, I mentioned a little bit about what measures impact our therm savings overall, and particularly custom. And you can see that between custom DDC controls, heat recovery, and custom other, was essentially competed with our highest therm savings, which was boilers and insulation in our prescriptive portfolio. Traditionally, those two measures are our highest therm saving producers. But you can see custom is right up there. And if you combine the custom categories, we're probably right there at 50-50 or near that with our standard portfolio and our custom portfolio. So I would say this year the custom other probably represents measures that don't necessarily fit into their own category, like heat curtains or refrigerated case doors, things like that, that don't have their own category fall into our custom other. But yeah, that's just to give an idea of overall what the portfolio looks like. And overall, I would say it was kind of dominated by boilers, insulation, and then custom measures. Next slide, please. Okay, so I am going to walk through our 2025 highlights just because I'd like to show the effort that we put forth in 2025, and it might, in reading these, it might, you might have a question or you might have a suggestion as things to look at in 2026. So I'm going to roll through these relatively quickly, but if you did have a question or it, leads you to think of something else that we could look at for outreach in 2026, certainly open to hear that. So at the beginning of the year, we did deliver trade ally packets. That is something we're going to be doing in 2026 as well, especially considering that we're going to have some incentives going up and we might have some new measures. So we're going to be doing that again this year. Last year we did contractor breakfast events. This is something where we host contractors, we work with the caterer, do a short presentation, and we thank them for their participation in the program, serve them a free breakfast, and it's just a way to reach our contractor base. So we did that in Western Washington and Eastern Washington this year. We did billboard ads for the first time in the program's history, so pretty excited about that. We found a new vendor that we can work with to deliver billboard ads across CNG territory. I believe we're going to be doing billboard ads in Eastern Washington in the first quarter of 2026, so we're excited about trying that. We partnered with an organization to host a Clean Buildings Act training. There's been a lot of talk among our contractor base and our customer base about Clean Buildings Act, and we really wanted to stay on top of that and deliver a truly cutting edge training around that just to inform them. And so we feel that that went very well. We are working with the Smart Building Center to participate and do a presentation at BOC, Building Operator Certification Trainings. I believe personally I trained at, or I gave a presentation at probably 3 trainings this year or in 2025. That's going to continue in 2026. So those happen in downtown Seattle. They have students from all over the state of Washington that attend. So we're excited about that. We did complete 2 case studies in 2025. We already have new case studies lined up for 2026. We worked with a utility consortium in downtown Seattle to present on, I think the first topic was controls, and the second might have been Clean Buildings Act from my memory. But that is where we work with a lot of regional utilities to participate in that effort, and we do a presentation to contractors and ESCOs around the state of Washington. So that was, I think this was the first year that Cascade Natural Gas participated in that, and that was along with PSE, Tacoma Power, Seattle City Light, and Snohomish County PUD. So we're really excited to be working with those utilities in a utility consortium effort. Let's see, as I mentioned before, we delivered a wide array of digital and print advertising campaigns. Those were all represented in our quarterly reports, monthly reports. We discuss all the efforts that we've done over the course of the year and show examples of those advertising that we did. Next slide, please. We had sent out direct mailers to our 500 largest gas users in our customer list in 2025. I had mentioned the YouTube streaming video ads. That's something that we've been seeing more of, and we wanted to throw our hat in the ring and add that to our advertising portfolio. So that was something new for 2025. Kind of along the same lines, we did Facebook ads, and this was the first year that we have done that as well. That was particularly highlighting greenhouse heat curtains, which you're going to be seeing more of in 2026. In fact, I want to say we have 2 or 3 projects that should be coming in Q1 of 2026 that we're very excited about. We did attend several conferences and regional energy events. That's something that we've done for the last several years. We really took a look at getting involved in some of the chambers of commerce this year or last year. So we did Bellingham, Greater Kitsap, and Wenatchee Chamber of Commerce. So working with them and reaching their members has been a great service for us. And then I mentioned WMOA. We attended, I believe, a couple of their conferences this year and attended, tabled. So that was a great program development for us. And then, as I mentioned, we incentivized 171 measures installed by CNI customers. So that's just to give an overview of some of the efforts that we took on in 2025. If you have any feedback on what we've done last year or have any suggestions this year, we're always looking to reach as many contractors and customers as possible to promote Cascade's conservation program for commercial and industrial customers.
Yeah, excellent, Brian. It's an exhaustive list. I believe, Brian, you and I met about maybe a year or so ago, and we talked about our plans for 2025 and trying to hit our goal. And if I recall, we actually doubled our outreach budget for the year, talked about some of these new avenues, partnering with our residential program as well to split some costs on, I think it was billboard ads, if I recall. So we're trying a lot of things. Our goal is, of course, to hit our goal. So I just want to compliment Brian's team for taking all these different avenues to make that happen for us, especially for 2024. So I think we have 2026 highlights next, if I recall. Yeah, here we go.
Yep. Okay, so one thing that we did want to just as sort of a roundtable, we thought that customer financing was something that we could look at for 2026. We were asked that to kind of analyze whether like how many outreach or how many customer contacts we had asking about customer financing, and it was kind of hard to put our finger on that, but it's something that has never really been advertised to our customer base, and it's something that we're looking at for 2026. So I'm not sure if anyone has any feedback on that or thinks that might be a good idea. But we have done some research and we have found some financing options that we can make available to customers. So we're just trying to decide that if customers had the opportunity to finance, if that's something that could increase the number of projects that were pursued. And just wondering if the availability for funds is something that decreases the overall number of projects that are pursued. So I'm not sure if anyone has anything to add on that or any questions, but just to let you know, it's something that we are considering for this new year. So I'll move on, and if we want to come back to that, happy to open up the discussion.
Yeah, we'll leave just a bit of space here. Go ahead, Wesley.
Sorry, yeah, trying to jump in. I think that's an interesting idea, and I like the idea of it. I'm curious. You mentioned a little bit, but I guess have you done what level of outreach have you done with customers? To pinpoint whether the financing, the upfront costs, were a huge limiting factor. So I guess I'm asking what the scope of that might be. As well as if there's particular customers that you have in mind when you consider this program.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd have any customers in mind, but you bring up a really good point. I'm not sure that we have ever done any type of surveying to see, if there's been any limitation in terms of funding for projects, but I'm going to jot that down because that seems like, a good way to determine if this is a possible limiting factor for the funding. So
yeah, great questions.
Really good point.
As you're writing that down, I know some internal conversations we've been thinking about this is perhaps 2026 we could do that surveying type, or perhaps we could add a couple more questions on our activities and on our incentive sheets, try and gather the information, and then see if there's an appetite and how much to actually pursue that, say in 2027 or 2028. There's different options like Brian mentioned. We know some companies do on-bill. We know there are some things like green banks that offer them as third-party services. So quite a few opportunities out there. Just a question of what's the right one. Wesley, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a follow-up, and you just hit on it. I was wondering, like, where the financing would come from, and what you have in mind for that. 'Cause, yeah, I know that Washington is in the middle of setting up a green bank that is still underway. So it's unclear what their priorities will be with their limited funding. Whether it'll be focused in CNI and how they plan to distribute that. So maybe one question on there is if Cascade has considered any level of engagement with the Washington Green Bank specifically, to kind of, I don't know, poke at this and see if it would be fruitful in the future. And then I guess the broader question is, what the more specific options you're looking at for financing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I added a note for follow-up. So I will share the one avenue that we have found and see if you have any experience with that. And then, yeah, I wrote down Washington Green Bank also as another option. So thank you for that.
Mike, I know we've had a couple of conversations thinking about this and, perhaps requiring changes in our recovery and our tariff mechanisms. Is there any discussion we should have about that right now, or is this something that maybe more research required? Any thoughts for us?
I actually don't have thoughts right now. So I think as we
Fair.
develop a little bit more, let me give it some thought.
Excellent. Yeah,
one more thought on this. I've thought about financing quite a bit in the residential space, and on the electric side of that. So I know that it's going to be different when we think about commercial industrial gas. But I guess another consideration for this might be if there's, if you looked at segmenting customer types based on, different, like, I guess, income status or, I want to say priority populations, but I know that that's more of an electric specific thing that Cascade might not have familiarity with. But I guess when we think about financing and who it might help, it could be worthwhile to, I guess, think about the different, I guess, demographic types of the customers and seeing if, there might be certain customer types that would more benefit from a program like this. So kind of just a thought for early stage development thinking.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that Wesley, our team, has been talking about over the past couple of years, particularly Noemi's low-income team, is looking at like highly impacted communities based off demographics, approximate incomes, those sorts of things. I think we've got a relatively powerful database on that, but of course, some things are known, some things aren't known. I think it's a great avenue to explore, though. I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great ideas. I'm not sure how we would segment, but yeah, if we could, I mean, that's certainly a great idea. So thank you for that.
Are there any other thoughts or conversation topics from the group here on the customer financing piece?
Sorry, I just had one more. While we have the space, I guess just as a follow-up to that type, even if you're lacking, certain information that you might need for a robust program like that, perhaps another way to think about it could be, I guess, marketing that option towards certain customer classes. So if there's, I guess, commercial customers that, are non-native English speaking, potentially, you could go about it that way as well. So that's it for my thoughts on this one. So.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. And Wesley, and of course, you're welcome to send any documents, any sort of education you have our way. Always welcome to receive those.
Great.
Should we move on, Brian?
Yeah, we'll move on. If anyone has any other feedback around that, we'd love to hear it. Okay, so we are going to discuss Pipedrive CRM for business development organization. So this is something we have submitted a proposal to Caleb about. Hopefully it's something that we can pursue in 2026. But we have identified a new software. You can look at, you can research it on your own if you'd like, but it's called Pipedrive. And it's essentially a CRM that's traditionally used for increasing sales of traditional companies that work in dollars and cents. Obviously, we work in terms, but essentially, it's a way to organize our efforts to just really streamline our business development processes, get us out of Excel, and just try something new for the 2026 program year. So it's something we've done several trainings with Pipedrive so far, and it's something that we'd really like to try. So assuming that goes forward, we're going to have something new to try for 2026, and I'm hopeful that we can do that. But yeah, if you want to check it out, just go to pipedrive.com. Might be pipedrivecrm.com, but it's a really interesting software. And as program manager, I'd love to have that for our business development team, just to kind of aggregate our efforts together. We also do a lot of reporting at the end of each month on our activities, and this is something that would just sort of streamline those activities, and they'd just be automatically cataloged as our BD team members were making outreach calls and emails and that sort of thing. So it's something that we're really excited about for the new year. I had mentioned building our pipeline. I do show the pipeline in the next slide, but we'll talk about the specific projects that we're aware of in 2026. Many of those projects are application in hand projects. And as I mentioned, also, a lot of those projects are going to be completed in the first quarter of 2026. So we should be starting out 2026 with a high number of therm savings. So we'll have less pressure toward the end of the year. We will be notifying customers of new measures, increased incentives. We mentioned the Trade Ally packet, but we will be doing a lot of marketing around those new measures and increased incentives, just hoping that customers will see those heightened amounts and be that much more interested in improving the efficiency of their facilities. So we're excited about that. I want to say that we're looking at March 2026 for that, when those new measures will be in effect and the increased incentives will be available to customers. And then lastly, which I really kind of already stated, we'd like to see these therm savings happen in the first quarter of the year, second quarter of the year, so that we don't experience the traditional hockey stick effect as much as we had, particularly last year. So excited about getting going early in the year and really kind of hitting it hard. So let's go to the next slide and we can look at the specific projects that we have in the pipeline. A couple of these projects were projects that were forecasted for 2025 and were delayed for whatever reason. So bad for last year, but good for this year. Particularly one of the projects that we're really excited about, it's kind of showing this first point here, is Free Range Farms in Bellingham. Greenhouse curtains are really becoming more and more popular, all the way from California and Oregon up into Washington. We are working with a vendor that is really kind of pushing these measures hard. But you can see that in first quarter of 2026, we should be looking at a 16,000 therm measure. This is a Bellingham project, $20,000 incentive. And then you can see that we're going to be working with the YMCA. We do have several school districts. Looks like only one is represented here. This is Longview School District, but it is over 4 schools for a retro commissioning project. And then we're going to be continuing refrigerated case stores. We had worked with Safeway, regional grocery store, and I don't have the total number of projects in front of me now, but I know that we did at least maybe 5 other grocery locations in 2025, and it looks like we have several more of those coming up for 2026. That Suspended Brands is another greenhouse curtain project. So you can see another 21,000 therms there. And then personally, I'm working with Kitsap County for their juvenile detention facility for some boilers. And then Megalodon, which we had several projects in 2025. We have some follow-up projects from them in 2026. So we're always happy to see return customers. And then when you look at the number overall, we're looking at 154,000 therms. And many of these projects are for quarter 1, quarter 2 at the latest for 2026. So I think that we're going to be sitting on a good number early in the year. So excited about that. I think that might be my last slide.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
All right. I think we can move on to the next section here. Brian, thank you as always.
Yeah,
any
thank you.
attendees on the call, feel free to send any questions our way, any advice, any topics. We'd love to hear them. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Caleb.
Okay, moving on to our next topic. We're having our residential program highlights with our summary of 2025. Same thing, note that these are draft numbers, however, they'll likely be pretty close to the official results. The other thing I want to point out is oftentimes businesses have incremental growth, incremental changes. Maybe 10% per year growth is fantastic for a company. What you'll see on this next slide is it's a pivot for our company. It wasn't an incremental change, it was a pivot into different resources, different avenues. In particular, is investing much of our resourcing in 2025 into our point of sale program, which offers upfront rebates for our customers, helps our contractors get projects approved. And in my opinion, Wesley, like you mentioned before, I think it's a fantastic offering for those that are highly impacted, lower income, perhaps English second language, for example. I think it's just a fantastic offering for us here. And if I could, I believe I can introduce Jesse to this next couple of slides and he'll walk us through it.
Thank you, Caleb. So I am very proud to present the 2025 data for the residential program of Cascade. What you're looking at here recaps 2024 and 2025. So for those that are unaware, 2024 was itself a record-setting year for Cascade's residential program. And thanks in part to the streamlined point of sale system that Caleb referenced, 2025 was able to outdo 2024. So please feel free to digest this at your leisure. Just some callouts that I want to make. In 2025, Cascade's residential program was able to save 1.1 million therms. We were able to process almost 12,000 individual measures, and we were able to issue over $16.2 million in incentives. We're very pleased with this number because it's extremely cost effective. When we're issuing these incentives, every dollar that we're able to issue returns multiple dollars in energy efficient savings for us and our customers. And a special shout out to our program delivery team. As you have seen here, the ramp up has been pretty staggering. So they've been able to keep everything processed and keep our customers getting the rebates that they are earning. So can I have the next slide, please?
Yeah, I'll take just a second here with all the information on the screen.
Yeah,
One of the other pieces here, we talked about in the last quarter, and I think it was actually 2 quarters ago, we officially introduced Stephanie Reed as our trade ally coordinator. We were able to dedicate a full-time position to this program specifically, and it's not, my opinion is it's relatively complex. Stephanie does a great job with it. In a way, it's like onboarding a new employee or a new company every couple of weeks. I believe we've already onboarded more than a couple this year. It involves training their admin staff, educating their actual contractors in the field, making sure that they're updated and welcome in our system and able to use it. And it also helps us streamline that process where oftentimes our rebates take a couple of months sometimes to be processed, which is our guideline, our standard. The point of sale program is typically less than a month for that money to be returned to the contractor so they can keep the dollars flowing, keep the work flowing. It's just an awesome project, awesome work that we're doing here. I think our next slide summarizes the measures. Yep, here we go.
Yep, so this is going to show therm savings by measure. And as you can see, we do have a good variety of measures. Some of them are going to be equipment like furnaces and water heaters. We've got varying kinds of insulation. And down at the bottom, you can see kind of the rock star of the group is going to be our attic insulation. We had high expectations and attic insulation exceeded even those. So definite shout out to our outreach team for featuring this low cost, high efficiency solution that we're able to deliver. And to Caleb's point, Stephanie Reed for staying in contact with our trade allies, making sure that they're able to come up with the best solution for our customers. And this, again, just kind of shows the breakdown of just everything we're able to deliver to our customers. And we're really proud of it. So please take a moment to kind of digest. I know it's kind of a lot here where you've got each individual measure category and then the therm savings associated with it.
Brian did a great job of sharing some of our outreach plans and our outreach tactics and some messaging that we shared for last year. On the residential side, we'll plan to include a lot of that in our biennial report, which those in this call receive right around May 15th, if I recall. So we'll have some more details, some more information in there if anyone's curious or interested. Yeah, Byron.
Good morning. I think these results are pretty amazing. I think this is pretty good. Like, it's always great to hear good news. Is there any indication that this is like slowing, or should we expect this to kind of like keep going on into 2026 and 2027?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question, Byron. It's the same question that I've had for the last year or so. My opinion is the attic insulation is extremely cost effective, oftentimes a low cost option for our customers paying typically the sales tax on the projects that we see. So my opinion is that the offer is strong enough, our outreach is strong enough, and our team is strong enough to make it be perpetual for us. However, it ultimately comes down to economic interests, availability of contractors and labor, and really customer decisions. So hopefully we're able to influence those customer decisions like we have been historically. But I guess time will tell is really the only correct answer I can give for right now, Byron.
I guess like looking at like the BCP, I noted that there's a roughly 20% cut to like the residential budget. How might that impact like continuing to do like attic insulation and like these kind of residential measures going forward?
Could you specify the 20% cut, Byron, or is it say the overall incentive budget year over year change? Is that what you're referencing?
I think it was like the total budget allocation for the residential. So it might have been a combination of like admin as well as rebates, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, off the top of my head, on the admin side, we're expecting very minimal year over year change from the 26-27 biennium to the 24-25 biennium. Relatively flat line with, say, a few percentage increases for inflation and then additional staff member. On the incentive side, we are likely increasing, I believe, all or almost all of our rebates on a per dollar or a per therm basis, Byron. So it really comes down to how many projects we'll receive. With our CPA goal in the next 2 years for the residential program multiplied by that dollars per therm, maybe that's that 20% delta. Off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure though.
Yeah, it might be worthwhile to clarify because we highlight that in our staff comments, so you might get some odd questions at the meeting later today. So yeah, maybe we can touch base after this meeting or something just to clarify so we're on the same page about what the budget is.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Byron. Just taking a note here.
Yeah, I have another question. And yeah, I'll echo what Byron said. We love good news. We love good news with conservation. So really happy to see this. My question is more of a curiosity coming into the Cascade space. So forgive me if the answer is obvious, but I don't think I see on here hybrid heat pumps. So I'm wondering if that's a measure that you've looked at or considered, or I guess what you think about that measure.
Yeah, good question, Wesley. I think that was something that we last discussed maybe a year or so ago when we were doing our 2025 conservation potential assessment. That was filed in June of last year. Hybrid heat pumps, natural gas heat pumps, gas furnaces, the backup to electric heat pumps. I believe all three of those and perhaps even some more were measures that were looked at in the CPA. I believe they weren't deemed to be cost-effective opportunities for us, so they weren't included with our prescriptive offerings in the past CPA or for the one that's going to be going into effect hopefully here in about 2 months.
Okay, that's helpful. So sounds like it's a CPA question that I should dig into to learn a little bit more. But yeah, that's helpful context for now. So thank you.
Yeah, certainly. It's something that I was personally hoping to have as a part of this, especially the natural gas heat pumps. Yeah, just the cost effectiveness in the CPA. So hopefully we can offer them in the future. I personally think there's some opportunity there if the dollars and the cents work out for everything. Are there any other questions or any other considerations for a residential program? Okay. I think we move on to our next topic here, and I think this is actually a fantastic update. Each quarter we provide an update on our low-income weatherization program. I believe for this quarter, if I could introduce Noemi and the rest of her team to talk through it, we've got some updates on the program, year-to-date results, as well as our pilot that's been going into effect here for a little bit. So Noemi, if you're welcome to hop on the mic and we can talk through this.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. And I have Sheila on the call too, so she'll take the couple first slides and I'll wrap up at the end.
Excellent. Sheila, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. We had a pretty good year. We got 84 projects completed, and it was close to 4 measures on the average per project. So that's looking pretty good. I'm not going to read the dollar amounts to you, but I would just say that the agencies are moving along, and it isn't like a flood or anything, but it has been really busy, and we have some wonderful agencies that do more than others, and that's just how it is. But we have an average cost of around $24,000 for the projects. So we've seen that increasing over the years, and it's just part of doing business today, I think, is that everything is more expensive. So it's been really good, and everyone's been very cooperative and very obedient, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this.
Yeah, I have a question, I guess, just as a clarification.
Mhm.
So this is your low income program, I guess, total. Does this include some of the work from the pilots that
No.
all are running?
Nope. This
Okay.
is separate from the pilot,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I believe we're going to provide an overview for our results in 25 and maybe some slight forecasting for 26 shortly.
Okay, that's helpful. I had a second question.
Sure.
A while back, I helped Byron work on a tariff revision increasing, I think it was the incentive rate for the contractors, that the admin rates. And
Mhm.
so hopefully, yes, it sounds like you remember or know what I'm talking about. Did that have a positive effect on project completion? Did it increase? Yeah.
I would say probably not a huge increase. We went from 20% project coordination to 30, and it's parallel to the previous years. So I don't think increasing the project coordination by 10% created a lot more projects for us.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. That's a really helpful update. I
Okay.
realize it hasn't been too long, so maybe there's not enough data to see if there might not be so things could change. Maybe it'll have a positive effect in the coming
Mhm.
years. But I think it's definitely, if it turns out that it just doesn't have a correlation, then it might be worth considering revising or lowering the rate to save dollars. I'm sure you all have that in mind, but yeah.
No, I really appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Wesley, and this is Nami. I will add to that, to Sheila's, though we haven't seen a significant increase in projects, what we have seen is the amount of projects we're doing are more comprehensive. So they are larger projects, and that kind of adds to one in the last year, the concern from agencies, one on being limited on contractor availability, so capacity of completing projects, and then also just the federal funds concern, where a lot of agencies were kind of reserving their federal funds in case they saw reduction or didn't see funding on time. So we absorbed a lot of that cost this year. So even then, we do have a few more projects this year than we did last year, just in one agency alone that last year completed maybe completed over 20 projects this year. So we had highlights in different areas, but when we switched the project coordination fee, it really came from the smaller agencies that were noting, we really have like a one-man, two-man team, and the coordination fee, or the 20% that you're paying really isn't enough to help us cover or spend additional time to do all the paperwork, to collect everything, to do the rebate, to follow up with customers, and then anything that you all need. So that's really where the increase in that from 20 to 30% came, was in the paperwork aspect. The agencies were just not, one, whether they were deciding it was not worth their time, to spend, additional time on trying to chase down CNG projects. And the change was really, that was the ask from some of the agencies, that they just needed a little bit more to be able to accommodate or to even explain as to why they were spending so much time on CNG projects when they don't actually have an FTE funding in comparison to, for example, the Department of Commerce funds, where they have FTEs allocated to each of their grants or spread across their grants.
That's really helpful. Oh, sorry. Just quick.
Oh, no.
That's really helpful context. And it makes me, think that I guess the extra funding does go towards, helping some agencies more than others.
Yes.
So I haven't thought too much about this, but I wonder if there's a way to have that funding, not as a blanket incentive, but just as, dedicated to those who need it. I don't know how you'd go about that programmatically. So just speaking out loud on that, but I do appreciate the context. Thank you.
Thank you. It's definitely something to consider. And also I saw, Byron, I saw you had your hand up, so I don't know if maybe in all of that context it got answered, but.
Oh, no, I was going to ask the exact same question as Wesley. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Sheila, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, next slide. Here we have our participation at the beginning of each calendar year. We ask the agencies to estimate how many projects they think they're going to be able to do. And as you can see, we're kind of all over the map compared to what the estimate was and what the accomplishments were. Overall, the budgetarily wise, we came under what the calendar year estimate was at the beginning of 2025. But we've had some strong performance from, Coastal CAP at 923, and then Northwest Community Action, Opportunity of Washington, and Opportunity Council all performed very well. And so we're going through the same agreement exercise now, where we're asking our agencies to estimate how many projects they think they can do this year. And I'll be going over that summary with Noemi later today, but do you have any questions about this participation slide that I can answer?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
And I'll admit that I don't know too much about this. So the question, I'm really just like looking at the zeros. So I'm wondering if, and I guess it's really, for some of these, it's like, most of them it's 0 out of 1 or 2. But I guess, the question is, like how, like help me like understand how they don't complete any projects. Like, what does it look like when that happens? Knowing that they're estimating, a small amount to begin with.
A very small amount. The feedback I get from the agencies is that they either don't have customers in the queue that are Cascade, or they don't know how to rustle up Cascade customers. And I'm always available to help people find our customers. In other words, I can do some mapping and find neighborhoods or things like that. But I think it's probably due to a lack of outreach on their part. I can tell you that like Lower Columbia said they were going to do 2 last year, and they didn't do any, but I know they have a few that are underway right now. So I like to think that maybe they're scared to work with Cascade, and then once they find out that it's not so painful, they'll go ahead and do it. But I think they kind of wait to have customers apply for the program. And Cascade sends all of our bill assistance referrals to all the agencies every month. So we're actually providing them with a list of eligible candidates that they could call down on. So all you can do is serve it up, you know. You can't make anybody do anything. So does that help answer your question at
Yes,
all?
that does. Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I think it paints a better picture on like, what's going on the ground. So thank you.
It's kind of like if you really wanted to, you could find lots of customers in each agency service area. That's my opinion anyway. Let's see, who do we have? Laura,
Hi,
you
Sheila,
have a
it's
question.
Lauren. Yeah,
Hi,
just
Lauren.
to build things, you answered that great. Lauren, I'm with Commerce on low-income weatherization. And just to add some clarity to that, we also do see that there is quite a bit of braiding and blending and leveraging, as we call it, with federal and state funds that requires the agencies to know which funding they're able to use on certain projects. And sometimes there's changes or things that move there. We're always hoping to push out more spend of utility and state and federal dollars and production across the board, but that contributes to some of the fluidity as well. Thanks, Sheila.
Very much so. Thank you for your feedback. Comments or questions? All right. Next slide. Noemi, you want me to take this or are you going to take it?
I can take it, Sheila. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So just to cover, as mentioned, we have, so aside from our standard program, the Weatherization Incentive Program, we also have our Pilot Participation Program, which essentially is similar to the standard program. The difference is that we have a third-party implementer. So we went out, we found contractors other than the community action agencies and also contractors that weren't currently working with our existing community action agencies to help us implement the pilot program. So far, we have completed 2 projects, and I'll just mention this was our first year. It took us a while to kind of get off the ground, to find the contractors, do some training, and kind of walk through the paperwork process and what our expectations were, and contractor expectations as well. So we recently, maybe late October is when we started to fully start issuing projects and seeing movement from contractors. The 2 projects we completed, the range of these projects was from 15,000 up to 46,000 projects, which is pretty standard. It came in quite a bit lower than our standard program. Total cost right now is 61,000. You can see the avoided costs here, and then therm saved for these projects, and then also just the average cost. And I'll kind of compare the standard program and this WIP pilot in the next slide to give you a visual there. And I'm not just throwing numbers at you. These projects did have significantly more or an increase in measures in comparison to some of the other projects we've seen. So that to kind of just validate that we are approaching this in a whole home weatherization. We're ensuring that everything is captured throughout these evaluations and that all the measures that are found are completed there. So just to note, the average here for project was 220. Also, aside from the 2 that we have completed, we had, and this is when we put the presentation together, we had a couple projects in the queue. I'm pretty sure we have some additional ones there. Just to note, this pilot has its end date at the end of next month. So we're still trying to work through the last projects there, and doing also some tariff revision to take a look at this pilot. But I'll pause there for any questions, and then if not, I'll move to the comparison slide.
I have a question. Yeah, just asking you to, I guess, say a little bit more about it. So it sounds like, yeah, the pilot's still getting off the ground. Are you optimistic that, once things really start going, the project count will, go up. I mean, obviously it'll go up, but yeah, I guess just based on what you've seen so far, are you optimistic that it'll keep
I am.
growing? Yeah.
I am, and I'll add some additional context also there. We have when we started this pilot was a lot of it led by staff conversation and also internal conversation of we have our bill assistance program, our CARES program, where we've set it up to have internal referrals for our weatherization program. So when we started this, we had a little bit over 800 customers waiting to be served for weatherization. So we have the customers. It was a matter of, getting the pilot in place and forwarding on customers and getting, eligibility established as far as the home itself. Granted, we know that realistically, out of those 800 customers, we aren't going to see all customers be eligible there because it's based off of the home in the need. There's customers that are interested, but their home may not qualify. But we do have a queue as far as those referrals. So I am optimistic that we'll move through these. It was just more the startup. So we have something to look forward to, and the referrals still continue to come in since CARES, as long as it's going on, we're still seeing referrals from them. All right, next slide, Caleb. I don't think I see any other. Okay. So just to give you a comparison here, a breakdown. So the pilot and then the WIP program, on the right-hand side, you see the standard program and then the pilot on the left-hand side. Specific note there on mostly the avoided costs and then also project coordination, just to show the difference in cost. We do have, mainly because we only have 2 projects to compare for the WIP pilot, it is an average cost, significantly higher than what you see in the standard program. But again, that's the comparison from 84 projects to 2. So we do expect to see a shift there the further we get into this pilot. One highlight there is mainly for this pilot program, we're going with straight cost as far as the contractor, labor, and material, not necessarily. So we don't have that additional 40% that we add on top. So just showing that difference there for this pilot, for the purpose of this pilot. We do have, just based on these 2 projects, average therm is looking similar there. So just wanted to add this additional context there, but we are hopeful for this pilot. We did know in our tariff filing that if we saw even 1 project completed for this pilot, we would consider it successful. And mainly because these were also customers that had been in the queue for a while, and our other partners just didn't have the capacity to serve additional customers, or their wait list was also fairly long. So we're excited to be able to just even provide the service and supplement some of the resources that also the community action agencies are doing. And I believe that's all I have for this slide, Caleb. Okay, and lastly, and I know Commerce is on the call too, I just wanted to add it. We have monthly or bi-monthly check-ins with Lauren. So just to know, funding for the agencies, the Home Rehabilitation Grant Program was funded for 17 agencies. And maybe if Lauren, since you're on the call, if you could give us some additional context on what all it would cover, as far as projects, or if it's noted just for like deferral projects and trying to prepare the homes for weatherization.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Noemi. Yes, this is for rural areas in Washington State, and so it's focused on homes that need significant rehabilitation, like foundation, electrical, plumbing. So outside of the typical scope of weatherization, but once those homes get back to a more condition, then they're able to apply for weatherization. So we just provided that funding out to the agencies this month.
Thank you, Lauren. And I'll note, this is this right here is crucial for our projects as well, and for agencies just to know, in the other slides, we saw project cost. The highest project cost we saw was around 75,000 for a project. This funding itself will help alleviate some of that. We did cover a lot of associated measures for these projects in order to make sure that we were preparing these homes for weatherization and not walking away and leaving this home to continue to deteriorate. So this funding will come in, will be very helpful for the low income programs, especially Cascade as it comes to leveraging these funds. So the more we can leverage funds, the more homes we can cover and serve and keep families comfortable and warm.
Noemi and maybe Lauren, I see a great question here. Is what's a non-entitlement county?
Thanks, Wesley, and thanks. What's that, Caleb? Thank you both. That's so HRGP, the rehabilitation program, is stipulated by Washington State Proviso to serve non-entitlement counties. And from what I understand, and sorry, this isn't the best answer from my team, is that it's a pretty complicated definition, but it means essentially not an urban area or a city. And so in that link, there are a list of exact counties. There's some nuances with that, but think more of rural areas.
Great. Any other pieces for this slide?
Nope, that's it, unless anybody else has questions. I believe that was our last slide for low income.
So. All right. We'll keep moving on. Feel free if there's any other follow-up questions to drop them in the chat or reach out to Noemi directly. Our next topic here, relatively quick one, and I think we're actually coming down to the end of the meeting, is a regulatory update. If Jody's available, we'll have her hop on and we can talk through some of the pieces in regulatory that we've completed or perhaps that we have upcoming. Jody?
Thanks, Caleb. So I just wanted to give you all a quick update on our home energy report pilot that has been ongoing. As you know, Cascade has partnered with Brilliant, who previously went by EnergyX, and we are doing a second round of home energy reports with a much larger group of customers. And so our residential customers have received their first report. It was sent out in the first week of December, and they will continue to get 5 other reports every other month. And following all of the reports being sent out, ADM will complete their third-party EM&V similar to the first round of the pilot to verify all of the savings. And we will share that information with you when we have it.
Right around the end of the year, most likely. Does that sound about right, Jody?
Yes, that does.
Great.
And with our filings, we had filed our residential EM&V on the envelope study. So this was the single and the bundled measures that we had sent out. This was filed on December 23rd, 2025. And additionally, we had also filed our 2026-2027 BCP, the Biennial Conservation Plan, on November 14th, 2025. This will actually be discussed in the WUTC open meeting today, later this afternoon, along with some of the other utilities.
Excellent. Yeah, Wesley.
Thank you. And I'll say I'm happily in the office for that very open meeting. My question, so I guess I have 2, but while we're on this slide for the residential envelope study, I'm actually assigned to this study, so I was planning on reaching out to speak more to it. But while we're here, I'm hoping you could provide, I guess, more context on what inspired it. If it was just kind of run of the mill, we're doing evaluations on existing programs, or if there was something that happened that made you say, okay, we need to study this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And West is going to, or Wesley, I should say, it's going to be more the second piece. And our BCP conditional acceptance documents, we're required to review our program on no longer than a 4-year basis and provide those results, of course, with the commission as well as our advisory group members. The first year, this would have been back in, I believe, 2023, we reviewed our commercial industrial program, which had excellent results and just over 100% realization rates. The following year, we chose to do residential equipment measures, so water heaters, furnaces, those sorts of things. We also had great results there. This residential envelope EMV we did on the third year, which was just recently filed. That's where we reviewed insulation measures, windows, doors, some of those other pieces, essentially that we didn't review in the first year of residential review. And then currently, and hopefully filed by the end of this year, we're reviewing our low income and some of the equity opportunities that we're offering. So that's our 4-year slate. And the current plan is to essentially repeat that after our low income review to keep that 4-year slate going.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. I have a second question on home energy reports. This is staff's one of our current favorite topics. I don't know if you had a chance to read that section in our comments to the BCP, but home energy reports are pretty robust with some other utilities like Avista and PSC, and that raises some questions that staff is thinking through. And so I guess just recommend that you look at those comments and keep them in mind as you develop your home energy report question, because I think, as things progress, it's something that we're going to keep talking about. And I get then the other sub question on that is whether your potential assessments looked at home energy reports in the last iteration, if those are included in there.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation, Wesley, confirming that we have read that and we'll keep that in our mind. And in terms of the second piece and reviewing the conservation potential assessment, yes, I believe it was included in there, and I don't believe it was included in our potential for the direct reason that we don't currently plan or historically plan on claiming therm savings from pilot projects. I think it was just that direct of a piece with our CPA. However, there is an opportunity to review in the CPA and have potential therm savings for something that would be in our prescriptive portfolio in the future. So definitely an opportunity for us to grow if we have great results again this year.
Okay, thank you. And maybe there's a pattern here, but I did think of another question. As far as the evaluations for the home energy reports go, are you planning on evaluating how the persistence of savings, so whether customers need to constantly be receiving the reports to make the change stick, or if there's an assumption that the savings, that some amount of savings, maybe if you have 100% savings in year 1, that doesn't just drop to 0 in the second year, maybe it goes down to 60%. So I guess the question there is, or the point there is that you can send a report and then, claim savings for more than 1 year. So the question is whether that's being considered in the pilot and the evaluation.
Yeah, definitely considered. However, candidly, I'm not quite sure what direction it's going to take yet. Perhaps, if I recall, it's referencing an RTF document that came out with home energy reports a few months back. That persistence of time, we are aware of it. Our implementer is aware of it. EnergyX, currently Brilliant, as well as our evaluator, ADM, is aware of it. I'm not quite sure what the results will be, what the interpretation will be, but we do anticipate that being a part of the conversation. Certainly, it's something that I'm really intrigued about because I'm not sure what the right way is, honestly.
Yeah, okay,
hopefully
that's good to know. Yeah,
hopefully it's a fair answer, but it's maybe not a concise answer.
No, that's fair. I'm mostly just bringing up the subject because it's of interest. So I appreciate that context. And yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I go back and forth. People say that, customers will tune out a lot of information and need constant reminders. But, I learned how to recycle once and I keep doing it without reminders. So I don't really know what the case is.
Yeah, it's very fair. And like you mentioned, I'm sure we'll be able to look into it and hopefully gain some knowledge, if not an actual result or an answer to that. That's another one of my personal opinions, is that some of our fuel and behavioral agnostic measures like attic insulation, prescriptive air sealing, some of these other pieces here where it doesn't matter what type of fuel a customer uses, it doesn't matter inherently, if they move out, a new person moves in, they just work. They save gas, they save customers money, they save the company money. That's why I personally believe in them, and I want us to continue growing those pieces here that are behavioral, fuel agnostic, and then also trying to capitalize on the pieces that aren't with these new pilot projects. I hope it works out. It's a lot of time and a lot of resources that we devoted to it. So just inherently, I hope for good results. Really good question. Really fair one as well, Wesley. A bunch of great ones today. I appreciate your input. I think this is our last slide, Jody. Is there anything else to share?
No, I just want to give thanks to everyone in this group for their help on these projects. Whenever we send out these drafts, I do really appreciate any feedback or any questions you guys send. So thank you.
Excellent. I believe the next thing that this group will receive from you is maybe likely that annual report that Jesse and you will be working on here right around May. So keep your eyes open. That'll be a big report for us to get anyone's input on. Okay, closing slide, same as always. Just once again, thanks everyone for the time here. We spent about just under an hour and a half actually this morning having some great, robust conversations, some follow-up action items, and a conversation that we'll be having with the WTC staff here shortly. So I appreciate that input. Our next meeting is scheduled for the same time, same virtual place, I guess you could say, 9 a.m. on April 15th. There's meeting invites and details that are actually in that invitation. But if you need any help, please reach out to myself or Des Bickmore. We're happy to pass it along. And the same message as last time. If you know someone who would be a great addition to this group, they've got expertise, insight, knowledge, or maybe they're just interested, let us know. We'll be happy to add them in.